What's up, guys? Darkness here, and today I want to talk about Stylosa's complete rant about placement games. Hope you guys enjoy. I'm just going to take a picnic while Lucio heals me up. Oh, don't have the peanut butter one. So first off, I want to say I do get what Stylosa is trying to do. He's trying to calm people down who might have a bit of anxiety about their placement games, who are overly thinking the fact that where they're going to end up is entirely determinant of the rest of the season for them. And it's a pretty amiable, video topic, but I disagree with, almost everything in this video. Your placement games do matter. There is an elo hell, and you should be trying in your placement games. So let's get on right into that. So first off, I want to say there is an elo hell. If you're a Heroes of the Storm player, if you're a Dota player, or if you're a League of Legends player, you definitely know this, and Overwatch is no different. The problem is, when the system is trying to put people into the game together, it cannot do it perfectly. Say you have 5 friends, and you let the system fill out the 6th player for you. If that 6th player is playing your Reinhardt, and he doesn't know what a right click is, and he's smashing his face on shift, then obviously he is a problem. Now, one might argue that you should play around him, but in an organized environment where you're playing against a 6-person team or a 5-person team, the organization is going to be such that you need that 6th player. Now, if you're playing in a solo queue environment where everyone is by themselves, or where there's pairs of players, then you're still going to be able to see players that are not doing their job. For example, I played in a match pretty recently, it was at the end of the competitive season, in which the enemy team's Junkrat flanked us the whole entire time. Now, if you play Junkrat at all, I can guarantee you know that the way Junkrat is meant to be played is not to flank. He's meant to stand behind the team and just spam balls in a direction. But this guy spent his entire lives, which were not very long, behind us. The problem with a flanking Junkrat is that he has no real flanking capacity. He's not a Tracer, he doesn't have Blink, he's not a Genji, he doesn't have a dash or deflect. He's just not capable of flanking. And when this person is flanking us all the time, and not getting kills, and not helping cap the point, then their team didn't even push past the first point. And this is the real problem here. The rest of their team was playing competently. They had a Reinhardt who was doing well, they had a D.Va who was doing well, they had healers who were decent, but the Junkrat was just spending all of his time in our rectums. And that is a problem. That is when that person just drug your SR down. And that is what elo hell is. It's when you get to a point where you cannot carry your teammates. And especially if you're a healer, or if you're playing something like Reinhardt. Some of the tanks can carry, Roadhog definitely could carry. But if you're playing a character, and especially healers, that cannot carry, you're going to get stuck in elo hell. If you're a Genji main, you can probably get yourself out of bronze, low bronze. But if you're a Mercy player, good luck with that. So that brings me on to the next point about placement games mattering. Your placement games definitely do matter. I implore you to go ahead and throw all 10 of your placement games, especially if you're a healer main, and you will see how bad it's going to get for you. You're going to end up in low silver. It's going to base it on this season what you were in the previous season, but you're going to end up pretty low. And it's going to be pretty difficult if you're a Lucio or Mercy main to get yourself out of that situation, because especially when you're playing those healers, you're very, very reliant on the team. When you're playing other heroes, you are still quite reliant on the team. I don't care if you're playing Genji, I don't care if you're playing Widowmaker, I don't care what you're playing, you're still reliant on the team. So let's say you are playing Widow, one of the least team-dependent heroes, I would say, and one of the heroes that does the least for her team. But let's say you're playing her, and you're getting picks. If the team never goes in because your Reinhardt doesn't know how to move forward, you're never going to cap the point, because that's simply something that Widowmaker doesn't do. Now, if you're playing Genji and you're dashing through people and getting all kinds of mad kills and with your mad skills, oh yeah, that rhyme, then even if you're getting all these kills, you might be able to carry, but in an organized environment in mid-plat, you're not going to be able to carry to your desired rank that may be Diamond, or Masters, because the team will be playing against you. Once you make yourself an available target, and by that I mean a target that is an actual threat, so you're the player who's doing all the killing, that team, if they're any sort of confident, is going to focus you. Overwatch is not really a game where you can carry very easily. It's not League of Legends where you feed your carry, your actual carry, till the end of the game, and then he just wipes the enemy team because he's so much more powerful than everybody else. He has all the gold and all the items, and that's not how Overwatch works. You don't get a talent advantage, you don't get an item advantage, you don't get a power advantage for having more levels. In fact, there are no levels. You guys who play Overwatch know this. So there is no real way to carry if the enemy team is even halfway competent, because they will focus you. And I've done this many, many times. I play Genji a lot. Genji is my main. I am a weeb. Proud and simple. But you just cannot carry as one single hero. Once you start making yourself that available target, as I talked about earlier, once you start becoming really, really dangerous to the enemy team, especially as someone who can do the carry like Genji, you're going to be focused and you're going to be countered. And here's where the real crux of Overwatch comes in, because it is essentially a rock paper scissors game. So when you're countering, or when you're carrying on a certain character, they're going to start countering you. So if your best hero is Genji and you're just whooping butt as Genji, you're going to see a Winston, you're going to see a McCree. They're going to pull out multiple tanks, and they're going to reduce your effectiveness. So even if you are carrying people who are worse skilled than you, because you will end up with teammates who are not exact same skill, because they're going to play heroes that they're not directly great at. They're going to play on times when they're not feeling the best. You're just going to end up with so many variables that you will end up on teams where you're the best player and where there's clearly a worse player. The problem is, getting back to my original point, I digress, is that you will be countered. So you have to rely on your team at some point. So the next thing that I thought was really funny was him giving the example that on PTR he was placed at 3100, so 31,000. And on live he was placed at 3050. Meaning that the system actually works pretty decently, I guess, in placing people. I don't know what his point was there, but I did think it was pretty entertaining that he compared 50 points of difference between the two. So I would think that this means that placements are pretty good, because he was placed pretty close to where he was supposed to be. So I want to address this point about determining player skill in a team-based game being difficult, and this is actually pretty wrong. I'm going to chase this rabbit down the game design rabbit hole for a second, so just bear with me. You can determine player skill in Heroes of the Storm, for example, from a couple of statistics, and this system has, the Overwatch system, has a lot more statistics available to it than we even get to see. So, back to Heroes of the Storm. If you only look at kills and deaths, you can pretty much, and mainly deaths, you can pretty much determine how a player played in a given game. If the player is very high in deaths and very low in kills, but isn't playing a healer, then they probably did something wrong. If they're high and high, there's not much you can tell about that other than they may have been being focused after a while. It depends on when these deaths happen. And if they're high and low, so high kills, low deaths, then they were probably doing well. Or they were kill stealing, which Overwatch tracks kills and last hits. So they would be able to determine, the system would be able to determine if the person was just kill stealing or if they were actually participating in these kills. Now, if we look at the broader system of Overwatch, you can really tell when a player is doing well. So if we take all tanks and all damage, and we're going to ignore healers for a minute because they're more difficult to tell. So if we take all healers and all damage, you can tell how a player is doing if their kills are high, their damage is high, their objective kills are high, and their last hits are high. So this means that they're doing a lot of the damage to the enemy team, so they're doing trash damage to Reinhardt's shield, they're doing meaningful damage to actual players, and then if their kills are high, this means that they're actually landing the kills, or someone else is helping them land the kills, so that this damage that they're doing to the players isn't trash damage, so they aren't just charging, you know, enemy ults, enemy support ults. And then if their last hits are high, this means that they're probably carrying. If they're doing all the damage and doing all the killing and getting their own last hits, then they're probably carrying the game, so they're probably a soldier right now, since he's just completely OP. Because what this means is they're doing all the damage, and they're shooting the people last, and they're just doing all of the killing. So if you're doing this on a soldier, you're doing your job. If you're doing this on a Zarya, you're, well, now she's probably, actually, that is her job, but you're probably overworking. You're probably doing the job of a damage dealer, and someone is probably not doing their job. And you can pretty easily tell from these few statistics how someone is doing. If the Reinhardt is bronze in objective time, then you know that there's probably an issue with him, just from that alone, especially if his deaths are high. So there is a way to tell, especially in the system that they have set up with the plethora of statistics. You can tell exactly how a player is doing just from looking at those, but I can guarantee you that the system tracks more statistics than we get to see. What I find absolutely entertaining about this next bit is that he just finished saying, sometimes players get put into the wrong skill rating. You guys remember in Season 2 how they got put, you know, bad people got put in my games, and I have a bunch of examples here. And then he immediately goes into the Overwatch clapback of, yeah, well, we match you with players of similar skill. I know we've all seen that on Reddit. Here's the thing, they try, and that's a key word that they forgot in their funny, albeit clapback. They try to match you based on skill. The system isn't perfect. It never can be. It can try its best, and I think that Overwatch system, compared to, say, Heroes of the Storm, which I come from a lot of Heroes of the Storm. I played a lot of it before I started playing Overwatch. Its system is much, much worse than Overwatch's matchmaking system. But no system, no matter how well you design it, is going to match the players perfectly, because there's no substitute for, if you could, and there's no way you could, but having a player, or a person rather, watch every single game and determine that person was in a bad spot, and he was in a bad spot a lot of the times, and that's a more subjective sort of judgment system that the algorithm just can't do. Like, the algorithm is based on, as I said in the previous audio clip, but based on the statistics of the player. So if they're doing numerically good, then they're going to get it. But I just found it funny that he was just had finished saying that he got matched with people who were outside of the skill rating, and then immediately went on to say that the clapback was right, and that it never matches you with inappropriate players. So for this next part, we're going to operate on an assumption that you get matched with players of equal skill. Okay? That's the assumption we're moving forward with. So if this is true, then the next problem is group cohesion. And I think if you've played in a group of friends, you'll realize what this means entirely. Because even if you get matched with people of equal skill, you're still going to have to work together appropriately. If the Reinhardt has a different definition of pushing, so if he's a really slow Reinhardt and he just doesn't push very fast until everything in front of him is dead, but your damage dealers and maybe your healers are playing a much more aggressive playstyle where they want to push into their faces and really get close and do a lot of damage. Even if these players are all of equal skill and they could land all the shots and, you know, flashbang at the right time, or heal at the right time, heal grenade at the right time, even if they're of different, or the same skill, they're of different mindsets. So let's inverse that example. So if a Reinhardt comes in with a Mercy carry, so the Mercy's going to pocket him, she knows how the Reinhardt's going to play, and the Reinhardt plays aggressively. If that Reinhardt tries to play aggressively with a passive team, so he has a McCree who likes to stand way back and plink them all before moving in, or has a Zen who never likes to come around a corner until everything's dead, then that Reinhardt is really going to suffer at the hands of a passive team, and he's going to have to his playstyle. So this is probably the bigger determining factor. I would put this at number 1 in determining factors of if your group is going to actually work well together, even if we assume that you're of equal skill. He makes this point later in his video, but again, it is under the assumption that everybody is of equal skill. I can guarantee you that the system will not match you within 100 points of your team. So if you got an actual person to rate everybody in that match, you would not be within 100 points of each other. And here's why. Because it comes down to two very general things about a player's playstyle. It comes down to physical ability to aim and click on people, for one. So the ability to, as McCree, dink people in the head and just generally shoot them in the face. And it comes down to number two, tactical ability. That's positioning, that's knowing when to push, that's grouping up, that's using your abilities in tandem with other people so that you help them, such as, Lucio speed boosting at the right time to help people, or flashbanging a Reinhardt charge, and things like that are really not so much skill. You could do them, but it's knowing that you should do them. And this is what really, if you got a person to rate these things, determines the difference between a player. I think these are actually more important than being able to click people, because there's plenty of heroes that don't require you to be great at clicking people. But almost all of them require you to know how to group up, how to push, when to push, how to, help your allies out by deflecting a Roadhog ult, or absorbing it as D.Va, or flashbanging a charge, or sleeping a McCree ult, and all these little things that you may have the physical ability to do, but you don't have the knowledge and the mindset to actually do in the moment. So I'm going to leave you guys with a similar message to what Stylosa did. You guys should definitely not stress about the placement games. While the placement games do matter, and while Elo Hell does exist, I think that you guys who have some anxiety about the placement games definitely don't need to worry about it. It's not a huge determining factor in your life. It's not really going to matter. Just play the game for fun, have fun with it, and enjoy the competitive season. You're going to end up moving up and down anyway, whether you play with friends constantly, whether you play with randoms constantly, or whether you make friends in the game. You're probably going to move around. Well, okay, you're definitely going to move around, but you're probably going to move in a direction that you want to, because you're going to get better as you play the game. You're going to play hundreds of games past the first 10, so just enjoy it. I'll see you guys around.